You know that feeling? The one where maybe out of nowhere, your heart just starts hammering.
Yeah, like you've just sprinted up 10 flights of stairs.
Exactly. And your breath catches. And this wave of just intense fear washes over you, making you feel absolutely certain that something is terribly wrong.
Yeah.
Like right now, wrong.
That abrupt surge.
Yeah.
Yeah, intense fear, intense discomfort. It often hits its peak within minutes. It can be so overwhelming, disorienting too.
It really can. Like your body's just slammed the panic button all by itself.
Yeah.
And based on the sources you shared, that's exactly what we're diving into today. Panic attacks. We're going to explore what's actually happening, why it might happen.
And crucially, how to handle them. Practical strategies.
Exactly. Practical ways to navigate these really intense moments and also kind of build resilience long term.
And let's just say this right up front, okay? Because the sources make it very clear.
Okay.
As incredibly scary as these attacks feel, and they can feel like a heart attack or something serious.
Oh, absolutely.
Panic attacks themselves are generally not physically dangerous. That's like a core piece of understanding we need to start with.
That is huge. I mean, especially when you're right in the middle of it, right?
Absolutely.
But this deep dive isn't just about what to do, during the storm. Your sources also touched on this broader idea, flourishing, they called it, leading a really full life.
Right. That concept of thriving, not just surviving.
Yeah. And they connect managing these moments of like acute distress with building stability.
Yeah.
Through regular beneficial daily routines.
It's like two sides of the same coin almost.
Kind of. Both paths leading towards, well, creating a life where you can really thrive. So we'll look at both today, the immediate coping stuff and the longer-term well-being strategies.
Okay, sounds good. So let's nail down the basics first. What exactly is a panic attack according to the sources?
Well, one source points straight to the diagnostic definition, calls it an abrupt surge of intense fear or intense discomfort.
Abrupt. That's key.
Yeah, and it typically reaches a peak within minutes. It's that sudden, almost explosive onset that's really characteristic.
And the physical stuff that comes with it. Wow, it's intense. Palpitations, heart racing, sweating, shaking or trembling.
Shortness of breath or feeling like you're choking, chest pain even, nausea, dizziness.
That lightheaded feeling, yeah.
Yeah.
Numbness, tingling sensations.
And then the mental side kicks in too. Feelings of unreality, like the world's not quite solid.
Derealization, they call that, or feeling detached from your own body, depersonalization.
Right. And on top of all that, this intense fear of losing control or going crazy, or that awful feeling of impending doom, like you're about to die.
It's a full body, full mind takeover. It really is.
Really?
And the sources, well, they explain the biology behind it. It's basically the body's ancient fight, flight, freeze response system.
The one designed for actual danger.
Exactly. But here, it's going into overdrive without a real physical threat being present. That's the crucial difference.
So your body thinks it's facing, I don't know, a tiger, but you're actually just like sitting in traffic or giving a presentation.
Precisely. The mismatch is jarring. And duration is also part of the picture. They can vary, of course, but often the symptoms are worst within about 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay.
And then they gradually start to subside over the next several minutes. Though, for some people it can feel much shorter, just seconds, or much more rarely feel like it drags on for hours.
But circling back to that really vital point you made earlier,
Yeah.
Despite how horrific it feels, the sources consistently say the attacks themselves are not physically dangerous.
Right. Holding on to that knowledge, even when it's hard to believe in the moment, is, well, it's a foundation for coping.
It really is. Okay, so if they're not physically dangerous,
Yeah.
what sets off this incredibly powerful yet non-dangerous reaction? Why do they even happen?
Well, it's complicated, as the sources show. Sometimes, yes, there's an identifiable source, a specific trigger, a really stressful situation.
Okay, like public speaking for some people, maybe?
Could be. Or confined spaces. But, and this is fascinating, they can also happen without any warning or any apparent cause whatsoever. Just bam.
Wow. So it's not always tied to something obvious happening outside you. What about underlying factors? What do the sources mention there?
There's a whole range. Biologically, they can be linked to other conditions, psychiatric ones like PTSD or OCD, or even some medical issues, things like certain heart conditions, low blood pressure, an overactive thyroid.
Huh. Interesting.
Some sources get into brain chemistry theories too, imbalances in systems like norepinephrine, which relates to stress, or maybe issues with the amygdala, the brain's fear center. There are even older ideas about like acid-base balance in the body, lots of biological threads.
And genetics. I think I saw something about that. Can it run in families?
Yeah, that's mentioned too. Anxiety disorders, including panic disorder, seem to have a genetic component. So a family history might mean a higher predisposition.
Okay. And what about psychological stuff? Stress.
Oh, definitely. Major life stressors are a big one. Big losses, big transitions like changing jobs, moving home,
Yeah, those are huge.
or even just the buildup of chronic day-to-day stress. Also, personality factors can play a role, being naturally more anxious, maybe worrying a lot, having a sort of overcautious view of the world.
And for teenagers, those social shifts can be particularly tough, the sources noted.
Yes, adolescence is a vulnerable time, and then there are substances.
Right. Caffeine, nicotine.
Yep, those everyday things can trigger attacks or make them worse for some people.
Yeah.
And withdrawal from various drugs or even alcohol can be a major trigger too.
So it sounds like a lot of things can feed into this.
They really can. And they can all contribute to what one source called a positive feedback loop.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, think about it. You notice a physical symptom, maybe your heart beats fast. If you interpret that with alarm, like, oh no, what's wrong with my heart? That thought increases your anxiety.
Right, which probably makes your heart beat even faster.
Exactly. Which you then interpret with even more alarm, and boom, the cycle spirals upwards into full-blown panic.
Wow.
Even just worrying about having another attack can actually make one more likely, feeding that same loop, the fear of the fear.
That makes so much sense. The fear of the symptoms just fuels the fire. Okay, so if you're caught in that loop, how do you break out? One source had this really practical way of framing it. Two main approaches: the calm down method and the roll with it method.
Yeah, I liked that framing too. It's a helpful way to categorize the different strategies because honestly, different things work for different people or even for the same person in different situations.
Right.
So maybe let's start with the calm down techniques. These are things you actively do to try and reduce the intensity of the symptoms while the attack is happening.
Okay. And the one that came up again and again in the sources was breathing.
Absolutely. Slow, deep breathing is key.
Like belly breathing.
Exactly. Breathing from the abdomen, not shallow chest breathing. And making your exhales longer than your inhales, or at least nice and slow.
Are there specific counts or rhythms?
Yeah, sources mention a few. Just simple, slow counting, maybe inhale for 4, exhale for 4, or even longer. The 4-7-8 technique is popular. Inhale 4, hold for 7, exhale slowly for 8.
Okay.
There's also square breathing, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4, or a 5-2-5 count. The basic idea behind all of them is that slow, controlled breathing helps switch off that fight or flight system and turn on the body's relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system.
It's amazing how consciously controlling your breath can influence that automatic system.
It really is. And a key point the sources make: practice these breathing exercises when you're not anxious.
So it becomes more automatic when you need it.
Precisely. It's much harder to learn a new skill in the middle of a crisis. Oh, and they also mention the old paper bag thing. Generally, it's seen as less effective, maybe even unhelpful, compared to just measured breathing.
Good to know.
Okay.
Okay, so breathing is one big calm down tool. What else?
Grounding techniques. These are super helpful if you get those feelings of unreality or detachment, that derealization or depersonalization we mentioned.
Right, feeling floaty or disconnected.
Yeah. Grounding helps you reconnect with the physical world right here, right now, anchoring you.
How do you do that?
Mostly using your senses. Deliberately noticing what you can see around you, what you can hear, what you can touch, smell, taste. Just getting really curious about your environment.
Oh, yeah.
The 5-4-3-2-1 method is a really structured way to do this. You name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch,
I've heard of that one.
2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It forces your attention outward.
Makes sense.
Or just focusing really intently on a single object nearby. Notice its texture, its temperature, its shape. Maybe think about who made it. Some people find it helpful to carry a small, familiar object, like a smooth stone, just for this purpose.
Like a little anchor in your pocket.
Exactly. And using physical sensations can be powerful too, especially temperature or touch. Holding an ice cube, maybe? Or splashing cold water on your face, putting a cold cloth on your neck. That little shock of cold can really snap you back to the present. One source even mentioned just gently patting your face.
Huh. Simple, but maybe effective? What about moving?
Yeah. If you can, moving to a quieter spot away from intense stimuli can help. Leaning against a wall for support, or just sitting down somewhere peaceful.
And if you can't move?
Then visualizing a safe, calm place in your mind can be a sort of mental retreat.
Okay. What else in the calm down toolbox?
Muscle relaxation. Panic involves a lot of physical tension, right?
Definitely. Everything clenches up.
So techniques like progressive muscle relaxation, where you systematically tense and then release different muscle groups, can help counteract that. Even just simple stretching.
And I think I saw something about yawning.
Yeah, kind of a funny one. Faking a yawn can apparently trick your brain a bit, signaling safety because we usually yawn when relaxed. Worth a try, maybe.
Ah, okay. And mantras. Coping statements.
Yes. Repeating a simple, reassuring word or phrase to yourself like, "This will pass. I am safe. I can handle this feeling." It gives your mind something calm to focus on.
A mental anchor.
Exactly. Light exercise, like a gentle walk outside, can also help regulate breathing and releases endorphins.
Feels good chemicals.
Right. But there's a small caveat. Exercise does initially raise your heart rate, which could feel a bit alarming during an attack for some people. So maybe more of a preventative thing or for the tail end of an attack.
Good point. And medication. Is that a calm down strategy?
It can be for acute attacks. A doctor might prescribe something like a benzodiazepine or a beta blocker like propranolol for uses needed situations.
Okay.
But the sources are very strong on the caution here, especially with benzodiazepines. They can be highly habit-forming. Really important to use them exactly as prescribed, under close medical guidance, not a first-line self-help thing.
Got it. Supervised use only. What about other people? Can telling someone help?
Definitely. If there's someone nearby you trust, letting them know what's happening can be a relief. And if you're the person helping someone having an attack,
Yeah. What should you do?
stay calm yourself, that's number one. Maybe gently suggest moving to a quieter spot. Remind them it's temporary, it will pass. Be patient, non-judgmental. And crucially, avoid saying things like, "just relax," or "calm down."
Right. That never helps.
It really doesn't. Often just a calm, friendly presence, maybe some simple conversation can make a huge difference.
Okay, so that's a whole toolkit for the calm down approach. Breathing, grounding, relaxation, mantras, maybe support. Now, what about that other one, the roll with it method? It sounds different, almost the opposite.
It is quite different conceptually, yeah. It's less about actively fighting the symptoms or trying to make them stop immediately,
Right.
and more about changing your fundamental relationship with them. The core idea from the sources that discuss this is to drop the struggle.
Drop the struggle.
Yeah. Instead of trying to suppress the sensations, the goal is to accept their presence and, importantly, teach your brain that these feelings, while maybe really unpleasant, are not actually dangerous.
So the idea is that fighting them makes it worse.
That's exactly the premise. One source put it really well. The real problem is not the anxiety, but the belief that these sensations are dangerous. When you struggle, when you panic about the panic, you're sending your brain a loud signal. This is dangerous. Red alert. Stopping that struggle sends the opposite message. This is uncomfortable, but I'm okay.
Okay, conceptually that makes sense. But how do you actually do that? When you feel like you're dying, it sounds incredibly hard.
Oh, it absolutely is a skill, and it takes practice. It's not flipping a switch, but the techniques focus on shifting your internal response.
Like what?
Using specific coping statements again, but ones that emphasize acceptance. Things like, okay, this feels really uncomfortable, but I know it's not dangerous. Or even though this is painful right now, I am actually safe. Or simply, I can handle feeling this, this feeling will pass.
So instead of go away, it's more like, okay, you're here.
Exactly. You make some space for these physical sensations. You open up to them rather than tensing against them. And then you adopt the mindset of a curious scientist.
A curious scientist, what does that mean?
It means observing the sensations without judging them or labeling them as bad or terrifying. Just notice them factually.
Like?
Okay, my heart is beating fast, my hands feel shaky, there's a tight feeling in my chest. You just describe it. Describe them as they are. Or even ask yourself, I feel faint. What does faint actually feel like in my body right now? You're investigating, not catastrophizing.
That shift from judgment to pure observation, that must take real effort.
It does. It's the core of dropping the struggle.
Yeah.
And there's even a technique mentioned called the exaggeration experiment.
Exaggeration. You mean make it worse? That sounds terrifying.
I know, it sounds completely counterintuitive, but you sort of dare the fear to get worse. You might say to yourself, okay, fear, bring it on. Panic, let's really go for it. Show me what you've got.
Why on earth would you do that?
The paradox is trying to make yourself panic, consciously choosing to lean into it, sends a powerful message to your brain that maybe this anxiety thing isn't something you need to be deathly afraid of after all.
Mm.
You could even try deliberately exaggerating a physical symptom, slightly, maybe tensing your muscles even tighter for a second, or breathing a bit faster, or jiggling your legs more just to show yourself, see, I can feel this. I can even choose to feel this, and I'm still okay. It kind of exposes the fear's bluff.
It's like facing the monster under the bed and realizing it's just a pile of clothes.
Kind of, yeah. And being compassionate towards these feelings is part of it, too. Gently acknowledging them.
How so?
Like, oh, hello, upset stomach. It's okay. You can hang out if you need to. Or, hello, shaky legs. Interesting sensation. What do you feel like right now? It's accepting the internal weather without adding layers of self-criticism or more fear.
And while you're doing all this, this internal observing and accepting, can you still, like, notice what's going on around you?
Absolutely. That's key. You expand your awareness. You can notice the tightness in your chest and simultaneously notice the color of the walls or the sound of traffic outside. You don't have to be only consumed by the internal sensations. You can hold both.
So it's not about zoning out. It's an active practice of acceptance and awareness.
Exactly. It's presented very much as a skill that you can develop over time with practice. The core belief behind it is that your body actually knows how to calm down on its own if you stop struggling so hard against the feelings and interpreting them as catastrophic. Remove the alarm, remove the fight, and your natural regulation can kick back in.
Okay, so we've talked about managing the attacks themselves with both calming and acceptance strategies. But your sources also spend a lot of time on what happens beyond the attack, building resilience, lowering overall anxiety. This seems to loop back to that flourishing idea, right? Creating a more stable baseline.
It absolutely does. Many sources stress this. While knowing how to cope during an attack is vital, real long-term well-being comes from strategies that make anxiety less frequent, less severe, maybe even prevent panic attacks altogether for some people.
Creating that fertile ground for flourishing, as you said.
Exactly. And therapy is a huge piece of this puzzle, according to the sources.
What kind of therapy?
Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, comes up a lot. It's considered very effective.
How does it help?
Well, it helps you identify and change those negative thought patterns, especially those alarming interpretations of physical sensations that fuel the panic cycle. It also helps you gradually face situations you might be avoiding out of fear, building tolerance.
Like exposure therapy.
Yes, exposure therapy is often a component of CBT, especially if someone develops agoraphobia, that fear of situations where escape might be difficult. It involves carefully, gradually confronting feared situations or sensations to learn, through experience, that they aren't actually dangerous. But even just general talk therapy can be really helpful for exploring underlying causes and developing broader coping skills.
And medication. Can that play a role in prevention too, not just for stopping an attack?
Yes, definitely. Doctors might prescribe medications for long-term management, often SSRIs, those are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Okay.
Or SNRIs, which affect serotonin and norepinephrine, are considered first-choice options. They generally have a lower risk profile for long-term use compared to benzodiazepines.
Which you mentioned can be habit-forming.
Right. Benzos are usually not recommended for ongoing daily prevention because of that risk. But again, any medication for this needs careful supervision by a doctor. They'll monitor effectiveness, side effects. And the sources do mention an important caution about monitoring for increased suicide risk, especially in kids and adolescents when starting antidepressants.
Okay, so professional guidance is absolutely key for therapy and meds. Now, what about those daily habits and routines? Some sources really focused on this. How does, like, making your bed help with panic attacks? It seems unrelated.
It seems unrelated, but think of them as building blocks for overall stability and reducing your baseline level of anxiety. When your baseline is lower, you're less likely to tip over into panic.
Ah, okay. So what kinds of habits help?
Regular exercise is a big one. Aerobic activity, yoga, tai chi, consistently shown to decrease anxiety symptoms.
Why is that?
Partly endorphins, those natural mood boosters. Also potentially helps regulate stress hormones like cortisol. And the key is consistency, not necessarily high intensity, just moving your body regularly.
Okay. And meditation, mindfulness.
Fits right in. Practicing regularly, even just for a few minutes a day when you're not panicking, helps you get better at observing your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them. It builds that muscle of non-judgmental awareness we talked about with the roll with it approach.
Makes sense. Practicing calm helps you find calm.
Exactly. And avoiding or reducing certain substances is important for prevention too. Caffeine, nicotine cutting back can make a real difference since they can mimic or worsen anxiety symptoms. Managing withdrawal from anything else is crucial too.
Yeah.
Oh, and staying properly hydrated was mentioned as well. Simple, but helps everything function better.
What about food? Diet?
Just following a generally healthy, balanced diet is recommended.
Right.
One source specifically suggested meal planning, not just for healthy eating, but also because planning itself can reduce daily stress.
Less decision fatigue.
Right. And sleep. Consistent sleep is absolutely foundational.
How consistent?
Waking up around the same time every day, even on weekends, really helps regulate your body's internal clock, your circadian rhythm. Getting some natural light shortly after waking up helps too, avoiding the snooze button. Little things that reinforce that rhythm. Sleep deprivation is a huge stressor.
Yeah, I feel that. Daily planning and reflection were mentioned too.
Yes, they provide a sense of structure and control. Things like setting intentions for the day, planning meals, or even just making tomorrow's to-do list the night before can cut down on that morning rush and anxiety. And taking a few minutes to reflect on your day, what went well, what caused stress, helps you learn your patterns and adjust.
Journaling seems similar.
Very similar. Writing down thoughts and feelings can be a great way to process emotions, clear your head, and track your progress over time. Even reading, just for a few minutes daily, was listed as a stress reducer. Good for the mind in general.
And keeping your space tidy.
Yeah.
You mentioned making the bed.
Yeah. It sounds minor, but a clean, organized space tends to lead to a less cluttered, less stressed mind. Making your bed is like the first small accomplishment of the day. It sets a tone of order.
Interesting. What about connecting with people? Social stuff.
Hugely important. Connecting with friends, family, colleagues, that social support is vital for emotional well-being. It combats loneliness, which can definitely make anxiety worse.
And hobbies. Having fun.
Absolutely. Hobbies provide an escape, a mental break. They help with work-life balance, prevent burnout, and just let your mind reset in a positive way. And one more simple physical thing, stretching.
Stretching.
Yeah, regular stretching isn't just good for aches and pains. It helps with flexibility, posture, circulation, even energy levels and alertness. All these little things contribute to a more stable physical and mental state.
It's really powerful when you list them all out. How these seemingly small, consistent daily actions build up that overall resilience, like creating a less reactive internal system.
That's exactly it. They create that environment where flourishing is more possible. Oh, and one last preventative strategy. Identifying your personal triggers.
Ah, right. Knowing what sets you off specifically.
Yeah. If you can learn what situations, environments, or even internal feelings tend to precede an attack for you, maybe it's crowds or enclosed spaces or thinking about money worries, you can then prepare for them, manage them differently, or sometimes make a conscious choice to avoid them if appropriate. Though we have to remember, some attacks just happen spontaneously.
True. And figuring out which triggers to manage versus avoid, probably best done with professional help.
Yes, a therapist can definitely help you navigate that distinction wisely.
Okay, so given how truly scary these attacks feel and how much the symptoms can overlap with really serious things like a heart attack, when is it absolutely essential to get professional help?
The sources are really clear on this. You should definitely see a healthcare professional if the attacks are happening often, if they're really severe, if they keep happening unexpectedly, or if they're significantly interfering with your daily life, like you start avoiding things you used to do, and the coping methods we've talked about just aren't helping enough.
And what about those specific scary symptoms? Chest pain, shortness of breath.
This is critical. Because those symptoms can be identical to a heart attack or stroke, the advice is unequivocal. Seek immediate medical attention if you suspect either of those things. Don't wait. Don't try to tough it out if there's any doubt. Get checked out right away.
Better safe than sorry, absolutely.
Absolutely. And if you are having recurrent, unexpected panic attacks, it might be a sign of panic disorder.
Which is a diagnosable condition.
Yes. And the good news is it's treatable. Getting a proper diagnosis from a qualified professional, a therapist, a psychiatrist, is the crucial first step towards getting a personalized treatment plan that works for you.
Okay. So wrapping this deep dive then, I think the main takeaway from all these sources is that, yes, panic attacks are incredibly frightening.
Terrifying.
But they are manageable.
Definitely manageable. And there isn't just one magic bullet, right? There are multiple tools, multiple approaches you can learn.
Right. From those immediate coping strategies, whether you find the calm down stuff works best for you, or you practice that roll with it acceptance, all the way to the long-term foundation building, therapy, maybe medication carefully managed by a doctor, and all those consistent, healthy daily routines we just went through.
It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process, right?
Yeah.
And you are capable of learning how to navigate these experiences. Practice is key. Self-awareness.
And self-compassion. Being kind to yourself through it.
Definitely.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with, drawing from everything we've discussed. Consider this. How might building those seemingly small, consistent habits into your daily routine, making your bed, planning tomorrow, going for that walk, how might that do more than just organize your day? Could it fundamentally shift your internal landscape? Could it create a kind of bedrock of stability that makes those inevitable moments of chaos feel less overwhelming? Or maybe flip it. Think about how learning to accept, to ride the wave of intense sensation rather than constantly fighting it, might paradoxically be the most direct path to finding real inner calm.
So structure versus acceptance, or maybe both.
Maybe both. Think
Yeah.
about that the connection between the structure you consciously build in your life and the freedom, the internal freedom you might gain as a result.